Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, and Tetairoa McMillan all land in fantastic spots for fantasy opportunity, while Emeka Egbuka and Omarion Hampton will have a lot of competition for touches to start their career. We recap round 1 of the NFL draft on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL fantasy betting and, of course, the 2025 draft at sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. We had a very fun first night of the draft. Now, some picks were very confusing and hurt our hearts for fantasy, but some selections got us very, very excited. So we actually have landing spots, and we're going to go through all of those skill position players who found their home last night. It started right off the bat at number 1, exactly what we knew was going to happen. Quarterback Cam Ward goes to the Titans. We have talked about that now for the last few weeks. We've known this was going to happen. We've talked about the fantasy implications of him landing there. No need to get into talking about him, but it happened. Now, this is where the good stuff happened. Immediately, the Jaguars trade up to number 2 overall to grab Travis Hunter, and they end up listing him as both a corner and a wide receiver. And they need both, right? They need a wide receiver. They need more targets next to Brian Thomas Jr., and they desperately needed help in their secondary. So I think this is a great landing spot for him. But what do you think about this for a landing spot when it comes to his fantasy success next year?
Yeah, it's definitely a new era of everything in Jacksonville. You have Liam Cohen as the coach. You have very young GM there in James Gladstone, and they got aggressive right away. We thought, okay, the Browns were going to do this with Travis Hunter playing both ways at number 2, but the Jaguars offered a lot to move up to get him, but they also believe that they're getting 2 players in one, right? That can really help their team. And the funny thing is this team lined up for needing both a number 2 receiver and kind of a number 2/1 corner, because you had Brian Thomas Jr. We know that he's headed to a fantastic career as an all-around great receiver, but they also have a very good corner in Tyson Campbell. They haven't had a guy opposite him to really help, and it's been a lot of pressure on him. So now you got a guy that can play in both spots, and there's not a ton of pressure on him as a receiver, right? Like, he's going to get favorable matchups away from what Thomas sees in coverage. They don't really have a reliable slot yet. They could still add one here, at least for depth in this draft. You really don't have a lot of competition here for the key targets. You have Gabe Davis and Diami Brown. That's it that you can look at. That would be significant role. Like, if they had a slot, I think that player would take a significant backseat to what they're doing. They also moved on from Evan Ingram. So there's some nice vacated targets here. It's going to be different, right? With this offense, it's going to be a lot like what we saw with Liam Cohen and the Buccaneers, where it's going to go through 2 receivers quite a bit. This might allow Thomas to move into the slot at times, or maybe Hunter can play as a big slot. So again, you have to be excited for Trevor Lawrence, for this offense. Just has a lot of passing game upside all of a sudden. Trevor Lawrence is out of excuses now. He has 2 really good receivers. Hunter is prolific, can make a lot of big plays in his own right. So really, we're talking about the Browns as a good landing spot, but this is better because Lawrence is an established QB. You have Thomas, who's going to give him favorable single coverage wherever he goes, and Hunter can burn that with his size, 6'0", 188. So good, lanky, strong receiver, plays bigger than he looks, and he also has great hands and runs great routes. So really, he's the most talented receiver and corner in this class when you look at all of it together. So let the Jaguars with a new school approach. I think they're going to manage his snaps, get him in there, but I could see him actually playing more at receiver than at corner based on what they need here in Jacksonville. So I'm really excited. I think you wanted to look at the wide receiver 3 potential. Now you're looking at maybe some wide receiver 2 buzz, because Thomas is going to be surefire top 12 wide receiver 1 in 2025.
Yeah, I don't think this hurts Brian Thomas at all. If anything, like, I do think they needed to add weapons here to make sure that Thomas couldn't have all of the defense being focused on him. So I think this is huge for Hunter, a great landing spot for him. It's plenty fine for Brian Thomas Jr. And then this is great for, it should be great for Trevor Lawrence. Like if you can't do it with these two wide receivers, then I just don't think it's ever going to happen. Next up, we got Ashton Jeanty, another one that we thought was most likely going to happen, but he lands with the Raiders, number 6 overall. And you couldn't ask for a better landing spot. I really don't think you can. I know their run game stunk last year, but I think that had a lot to do with the personnel, with the scheme, with, an injured offensive line. It feels a lot like the Buccaneers run offense from 2 years ago where it was so bad, right? And then instantly when you bring in a new coach and a new scheme and a new running back, it all got better for the Buccaneers. So Ashton Jeanty's walking into a situation with an instant 300 touches immediately as a rookie, getting drafted this high. First off, like they're going to utilize him, and he has no competition. Raheem Mostert, McCormick, Zamir White, like this is all Jeanty's backfield, and you got to love it for fantasy. I think instantly he has to be considered a possible top 5 running back in 2025.
Yeah, there's a couple elements we like here with this landing spot. We've talked about this in length. We just thought the Jaguars might steal their thunder, but once we saw the Jaguars move up to number 2, we felt really good about him landing with the Raiders, and this is an absolute smash spot for him. He's a top 5, top 6 running back already that you're going to draft, and really a first-round pick in fantasy. That's how high he is. And look, Bijan Robinson, you had to worry about the Tyler Algier thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. Instantly, there was the David Montgomery thing that developed as his rookie season progressed here. So when you look at this, however, there's nobody. I mean, Raheem Mostert is not going to cut into a committee approach. Too old, not going to happen. I think you look at it and look at Chip Kelly, and they're going to have some spread concepts here. They do have a legit passing game now with Geno Smith, so they can spread things out there. Let's hope they add a receiver, so there's a little bit more attention that you don't get safeties in the box and all that. But they have to do this. They have to worry about Brock Bowers, so you really have to put a linebacker safety commitment to him, to slowing him down. I think they'll add a receiver here to go Jacoby Myers, so they can spread the field a little bit for Chip Kelly, create those running lanes. This offensive line should be healthier and more productive. And then on top of that, Pete Carroll. Look, he cited Jeanty did Marshawn Lynch as one of his inspirations, guys he talked to. We know what they did with Marshawn Lynch. He was beast mode, powering him there. So it's like the two philosophies are meshing here. The Raiders want to be the smash, defensive-minded team that has a little bit of explosiveness in the passing game, but they also are grounded quite a bit with Kelly and their scheming up front. So everything is perfect about this matchup, or this match, I should say. The depth chart, totally in Jeanty's favor. Clear number 1, workhorse, everything lines up. And we just saw this a couple years ago, Josh Jacobs. I know a little bit different, but Jacobs led the NFL in rushing yards and scrimmage yards for this team. So if you get the opportunities in Las Vegas, doesn't matter what else is going on, you're going to produce. So I love this for Jeanty, and I think he comes through with a big, big rookie year. It doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that. And then another landing spot I just absolutely love. This is what I wanted the whole time, but I didn't think it was going to happen because the Panthers had so many needs on defense. But they take the wide receiver, Tetairoa McMillan. They go with the big, tall wide receiver to help Bryce Young make that next step forward in his 3rd season, to give Dave Canales another weapon. And I absolutely love it. I mean, this is huge for Bryce Young because we're excited about what he could do for fantasy next year after seeing him at the end of last year working with Jalen Coker and guys like David Moore and a really old Adam Thielen. Like he was getting it done with them, putting up some pretty solid fantasy games there at the end of the year. Now they get him a true, I do think Tetairoa McMillan has the skill set to be a true wide receiver 1 in this league. Gives him a huge, big, tall catch radius guy too. Like just throw it up to him, he's going to come down with it. So I love this for McMillan, that he's going into a situation that he can earn a lot of targets. And then I love this for Bryce Young's potential to keep growing as well.
Yeah, so much for Xavier Legette having any real fantasy value. That's pour one out for him. But when we look at it going forward, Tech McMillan, he's just exactly what we're looking for. And this comparison, look, I've made it many times. I've done it with mock drafts. I've done it on the show here. The Mike Evans comparison, it has to be real because you have Dave Canales. He got the most out of Mike Evans on the outside. You also saw that Liam Cohen did it as well. And now he gets Travis Hunter. It's kind of funny how it worked out for these two guys that worked with Evans. Now they get a nice target into their mix. And now you look at McMillan, look, he's going to dominate some targets on the outside. I think what we want to look for right away is Bryce Young and him developing chemistry. Let's hope they get on the field together, start practicing in Charlotte, find somewhere to get going and really build that chemistry. Because, again, he's a guy that you can put it up for in the red zone. He's going to come down and make some plays. He can stretch the field as well. They're missing just the guy to do that, take a top off of defense, really draw an attention of the top corners that are big, right? You really didn't do that with any of these other guys. Like, they didn't scare you. And that's why they were like, okay, you can have these catches of David Moore or Coker or Thielen, right? Just do this. We don't care. You're not going to beat us with these guys. But guess what? He could beat them with McMillan on the outside and make some plays. So, again, Canales is a smart guy. He's had DK Metcalf. He's had Evans. He knows what these guys can do, and that's the kind of treatment that I think McMillan will get. And he's right away to me a guy that you look at wide receiver 2 radar of top 25, top 30. I think you definitely look at him with his landing spot. And the Panthers still could be throwing a ton, right? The volume is going to be there because they didn't go defense with this pick, and they need a lot of defensive help as well.
Yeah, their defense is still going to be terrible, most likely. But yeah, those three, Tetairoa McMillan, Ashton Jeanty, and Travis Center, all in great spots. And then when we got to pick 10, we had probably the craziest first round pick of the night, where this is not what we expected to happen. We will talk about the next three guys that went off the board here right after a quick break. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. And then their post your job feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So the biggest shock of the night, I think, was the Bears at number 10 overall, going with tight end Coltson Loveland. I mean, there was rumors that they were looking at tight end, right? So you thought maybe Tyler Warren, but you're like, is that really their biggest need, or really where they're going to go? And they did go tight end, just not with Tyler Warren. So I think that was a shock, them taking Loveland. It seems like an unfortunate landing spot for the moment for him, right? Because he's going to have the competition with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze for targets. And then Cole Kmet, I don't think he's just gone from the team. Like, yeah, this kills Cole Kmet's fantasy production as well, or outlook. But now I just think they kind of both hurt each other for at least 2025.
Yeah, the one thing that is missing here from this equation is they moved on from Keenan Allen, didn't really replace him in the slot, but that still could come here in the draft. So they don't have the traditional slot, but then Ben Johnson uses a lot of 2 tight end sets and 12 personnel. The funny thing is, I'm really upset about this pick because I had Tyler Warren go to the Bears and Coltson Loveland go to the Colts. It ended up being reverse. I had the right spot. I didn't think there was any way that Loveland was going to go ahead of Warren, but maybe it's because he fits in the box a little bit more for Ben Johnson. I know Ben Johnson's a creative guy, but he also knows what he knows, and he's seen Sam Laporta. And he probably said, who's the guy that kind of reminds me the most of Sam Laporta? He probably said Loveland because he's more of a traditional tight end. Well, I think Tyler Warren is more that move guy. You can get him in different situations. And the thing about Loveland is you think he's going to be a better blocker, but he's been compared a lot to Mark Andrews, and that's why a lot of box early in the process had him go to the Chargers and Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh out of Michigan. But when you look at it in this sense, Loveland could be the key third target on his team, but Kmet is not going to go away. Moore and Odunze are going to get plenty of targets. This also could be a better running team. We know they upgraded their interior line, so they should go after Caleb Johnson or somebody. Trayvon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins are out there. You figure the Bears will take a running back here on day 2. So a little bit run heavier. There'll be a little bit better defense. I think the one thing is, again, where is he going to get the targets? So Odunze is a first-round pick. Moore was a first-round pick, is making a lot of money. Kmet is still there, and they're going to use throw personnel. So I'm a little concerned about him getting enough targets. So I would stick with him. He's a little less developmental and tabled for year 2 than he had landed with the Chiefs or Eagles or a team like that. But I think you still look at, okay, he's a tight end 2. Let's not overdraft him. Be careful. There's a crowd here. And look, he has to stop. She's behind everyone else in getting on the same page with Caleb Williams as well.
Yeah, and he was definitely, I don't think, as like polished and as ready to step in and take over a huge role like Tyler Warren is right now. Like I think Tyler Warren, who got drafted by the Colts at number 14 overall, which it definitely allows him more target opportunities than I think Coltson Loveland, right? It does. The issue is his quarterbacks in Indy right now. It's going to be a competition between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. Neither one gets you super excited. However, last year when we were talking about Brock Bowers' landing spot with the Raiders, right? It was, well, who's his quarterback? And it wasn't good, right? All year long with Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or Desmond Ridder, right? And he still got it done. So Tyler Warren, I do think, has the skill set to still get it done, even with bad quarterback play. And yeah, there is like a handful of good playmakers there, and Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce, but really not a guy who's a real serious number 1 target, right, for this offense. So that could be Tyler Warren. I don't hate this landing spot for Warren.
Yeah, it's not as good as like a Jets, say, where he would have had like a clear path to targets here, but I do think it is better than Loveland because these Colts guys have been there, but they've shown flashes. They've had injuries, right? I mean, Pittman has been rather reliable here overall, but he's not like a dynamic takeover the game type of receiver. He's not an alpha that I think everyone is scared of. Like, he's very good and effective, and he can be a big slot as well. And then we've seen Downs have trouble staying on the field. Pierce is a big play threat. So in a weird way, Michelle, I don't think I want Anthony Richardson to be the starting quarterback because he's a guy that's inaccurate in the middle of the field. He's going to force a deep ball. Or maybe the other way you look at it, Shane Steichen's going to say, look, you didn't have this guy last year. We're going to force you to throw intermediate to short. Use that arm. Use this guy that can stretch the field for you after the catch, get open for you quickly. So there's that, right? They didn't really have the element. They had Mo Alley Cox. They've taken a bunch of dudes like this, Jelani Woods, Will Mallory, you go down the line, but none of them have panned out to have the same level of receiving talent or impact of Warren. So they might say, hey, you're going to throw to Warren a lot. You need to, and to keep your job. Or if not, we're going to go to Daniel Jones. And they'll say, look, Daniel Jones, I don't think is as afraid to check down. Like, both these guys were worried about they'll take off and run, and that hurts maybe the checkdowns to running backs. But I think in terms of security blanket, you have to really trust Warren for either of these quarterbacks, right? They're on their last legs here to prove themselves as passers. But I would feel actually a little bit more comfortable if Jones won the job than Richardson, because I think Jones would be more willing to say, look, I'll shorten my passes. I'll throw to this guy all day long if I need to and not force the ball downfield, where I think Richardson still might have that mindset with his big arm, and his accuracy, I think, is actually better, deeper than it is on these routes to Warren. So, again, there's a lot to be said. But that said, I would still take Warren as a back-end tight end 1. He's just got too much talent here to ignore. And look, we were worried, same thing. Great example. I was worried about Brock Bowers with all these things, but when the talent manifested and took over, and that's what you have to look at. The talent is there to dominate. So that's why I like Warren still as a back-end tight end 1. Not as high as I would have liked, but still very draftable in the top 12.
Yeah, I think he should be top 10 at least in our rankings. And you're right. Like, I want Daniel Jones to have this job for Tyler Warren, which seems really funny to say. Now, my least favorite pick of the night, because I love this player so much, and this hurts me that he landed in such a crowded group. It's Emeka Egbuka going to the Buccaneers at number 19 overall. I can't believe they went this route. I mean, Jahdae Barron was still sitting there for them at corner. That, he goes 1 pick later. That would have been great for their defense. I don't know what's going on. They decided to take another wide receiver. I mean, this is bad for Egbuka because why I was so excited about him is he has a capability to be a possession wide receiver and get a ton of targets, and that's how he'd be great. This is not going to be a good situation for him. He's not like a big play guy, right? It's not like he just needs a couple targets a game and he's going to be able to shine. No, like, I wanted him to go to a spot where he could earn 8 to 10 targets a game. Now he's playing with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And then this also ruins Jalen McMillan, who we're excited for. But Godwin's still under contract for 3 more years. They just re-signed him. Mike Evans isn't going anywhere. This is not a great landing spot.
Yeah, I do like the player. I think it's a
I love
worthy player.
Egbuka.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a worthy pickup in that sense. And maybe they know something we don't know about Evans and his future. And maybe he's not have too much more left in the tank and they might go in that direction. But that said, there's still Godwin and McMillan to worry about at this passing game. So, and Baker Mayfield has to get used to this guy. Remember how he really connected with Evans and then he got going with Godwin and then he really clicked with McMillan down the stretch. So again, he falls behind in the pecking order to get on the same page with Mayfield. So I don't know when you're going to have the value, right? I mean, Chris Godwin could have another major injury, and then we're talking about Egbuka replacing him, right? Sooner rather than later. I think maybe that's something that they might keep in mind. Both these guys are getting older. We know that, and are going to have a decline pretty soon. But I think he's drafted more, I would say, to replace Godwin than Evans. Because again, Evans would play for a while. This guy's big, durable, usually plays through a lot of injuries, where we know Godwin has had all kinds of ailments, knee, ankle, all these things that have slowed him down, and he's getting older as well. So maybe it's a bit of a contingency. Maybe they're not as hot on Jalen McMillan as we all think from the outside and how he produced without Godwin last year. So it's very interesting. So I think it's a bit of a contingency, a bit of a stash. But all that says, not this year, folks, for Egbuka. He's a good fantasy stash for Dynasty, that type of league late in rounds, but not anywhere that you're looking for in 2025.
And I'll say, like, them going with this pick ruined the next pick because I would have loved the Broncos to get Emeka Egbuka, right? So they get Jahdae Barron, which was like, we really wanted them to go with a running back or wide receiver. I wonder if they would have went with Egbuka if he was still there, but they didn't. And then we get to the Chargers pick, and man, another bad landing spot for another top player, and that's Omarion Hampton. We will talk about his fantasy outlook for next year right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. And look, it's NBA playoff time, and FanDuel is giving you, as a new customer, an incredible way to get on the action. Yeah, while the NFL draft is going on, you can just have some action on the side here, have some split screens, and look at the NBA playoffs in full swing here. A lot of exciting action still on the board. It hasn't stopped here despite the NFL draft arriving. So, again, it's a great time of year to have all that going on at the same time. And right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bet if your bet wins. That's amazing because they make betting so easy. I love it there at FanDuel, where it's picking your favorite team. We're diving into player props from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props in the NBA action. Plus, after games tip off, you can even combine live prop bets into same-game parlays for a chance to win really big off these games. So don't miss out while the draft is going on. There's still a lot of NBA that you can get in on. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com. Take advantage of that now and get in on the NBA playoff action all the way through the finals. All right, Michelle, time to close the show and look at some of the later picks in this round. Now, you teased Omarion Hampton going to the Chargers. Now, this is yet another pick, like the Egbuka pick. I love the player, and I think he could have some upside. But I don't quite understand the situation. Like, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh's trying to do. I guess he's just trying to run the ball down people's throats and hope that Justin Herbert makes a few big plays to Ladd McConkey and they win some games, right? But I get it. It's a great running game. They're obsessed. They've got an offensive line, but maybe it's a little too obsessed to get Omarion Hampton into the mix. This kills Najee Harris's value. I don't say it's bad totally for Hampton, but it's not what we're looking for a full-time job here and a team that I didn't expect to go after running back this early.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams that are running back needy that there just was so many other options for him to get a workload right away. It's not a bad landing spot for him for his career, right? I mean, Najee Harris signed a 1-year, $5 million contract. He could be gone right after this year, but I just don't see Hampton coming in and beating out Najee Harris so hard where Harris is sitting on the bench, right? Like, best case scenario, Hampton gets 50-50 with Najee Harris, and that could happen, but that's not what we want from our running backs. And this definitely hurts Najee Harris, who I was excited for, his potential with getting all these touches and a new offense that scores more than the Steelers did. But now neither of them are going to get, the 300 touches we were hoping for from either of these guys. So it does hurt both of them. And I think now both have to be looked at as running back threes with potential to be much higher than that if one of these guys gets hurt. But for next year, it's hard to really say who's going to get the good workload, like the receiving work, the goal line work, and then the majority of the touches.
Yeah, you said if either of these guys get hurt, that's the one thing Najee Harris doesn't do is get hurt. Unfortunately, like there's not going to be a full takeover here for Hampton, right? I mean, the way that J.K. Dobbins was, yeah, he was going to get hurt, but like with Harris, he's a durable back. So the problem is Harris going to steal the power touches? Is Hampton going to steal the receiving touches? Could they cross-pollinate here and steal each other's touches in key spots here? So that's my concern. I think the Chargers as a team want to load up and go well beyond the 300 touches, it looks like, for the running backs to, I guess, take pressure off Justin Herbert, be like a running team, and be kind of the Ravens part two, where Justin Herbert is playing off the running game with Greg Roman. It seems like that's what they want to do, and they see like Derrick Henry and what they're doing there as an inspiration, and hoping in turn that opens up the passing game and you see the big numbers from Herbert. But definitely, this is a Harbaugh obsession. He wants to power run the ball better than anyone else ever in the history of the game, and that's why he's got both these guys. So, again, I'm a little bit worried, but I think this is how I would look at it, Michelle. I think I would want to bang the table quite a bit for Hampton in my fantasy drafts a little bit later. Let other people take Najee Harris. I want the upside guy. I'm going to go with Hampton here, and I think there could be a takeover at some point. You mentioned the one-year contract. Harris may not pan out. I mean, he wasn't great in Pittsburgh in terms of really maximizing yards. So, again, I want a piece of Hampton here. Look, I think he's an RB3 borderline with some RB2 upside, where I think Harris flex play at best at this point. So that's how I would look at it. Go for the upside always. And again, Hampton by 2026, especially in your keeper league, he could just dominate here for the Chargers offense. So I think you elevate him a little bit in Dynasty and elevate him actually a little bit in regular leagues, where I don't think it's terrible to take him, say, 25 through 30, right? At running back, even 23 if you want to get aggressive or something. Take him in the top 24 just to make sure that you have this upside player. So there's a lot of things to look at, but the expectations have to be very much tempered because of the landing spot.
Now, the last wide receiver off the board in round one, the Packers finally take a wide receiver in the first round. First time since, 2002? Now, they go with Matthew Golden, and I'm not going to lie, this is not a prospect I like very much. The size is 5'11", 191, fine. He was insanely fast at the combine, 4.29, but he doesn't play with that speed, so I don't really – the 40 time has really just got his hype all the way up. I don't love him as a prospect, but I love the landing spot. I mean, he's going to have opportunity here. Last year, Dontavian Wicks led this team in targets. That should not be happening. Like, you cannot have Wicks lead the team in targets. So he's going to have an opportunity, and they needed to try to get Jordan Love a true wide receiver one. I don't know if Matthew Golden has that skill set to be a 140 type target guy and be a wide receiver one for a team, but he will have the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be history repeating itself in Green Bay. Remember that one draft they had with like Jamon Moore and a bunch of wide receivers, and they stashed some people and like, oh, one of these guys will pan out. Well, they did a little bit better this time because Jaden Reed looks still like a keeper that you work in the slot. But Christian Watson has not been able to stay healthy. Romeo Doubs always seems to have some injury issue. And Dontavian Wicks, he's in and out of the lineup as well, and he's kind of the default. Oh, we don't have Watson or Doubs available. Let's go to Dontavian Wicks and see what he can do this week. So I was tired of this. Like, here's Wicks as a sleeper. Here's Doubs. He's healthy as a sleeper. Oh, no, here comes Watson. He's going to build on this. But guess what? If they all can't stay on the field and produce consistently, they were not reliable receivers for this team. And then I'm thinking Brian Gutekunst and Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, they're probably like, yeah, we need a guy that we can trust here for a quarterback that's going to get open, make some big plays on the outside that we really desperately need with Jordan Love's arm. So that's why they took Golden, I think. They said, look, let's clean up this mess. We know Reed's the keeper that we want to have in the middle of the field, but these other guys can't cancel each other out. They can't rely on any of them. Look, we'll just make it a committee. Whoever's the healthiest can be the number two outside among that group. Let's go get a guy that can be vertical and be special in this offense. So, look, I disagree with you. I do like Golden. Maybe you're looking too close with Texas and maybe seeing the stuff there that he didn't do well. I mean, he definitely shot past Isaiah Bond, who has his own issues, different things that he's battling, but he clearly separated to show that he was a better receiver. He shot into the first round. Golden had a big year this past year with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. So, yeah, it was a big year in terms of like getting on the radar, right? As a clutch receiver for the NFL. Like, I think people saw him more, and I think we thought that might have been Bond early in the year, but Golden was the guy that really stood out to me. So this is a great system for him. Let's not get wrong. It's Matt LaFleur, it's Jordan Love, and they'll find a way to use him well. And again, goodbye to all the value of Wicks, Dubs, and Watson. I don't want to hear about them as sleepers anymore. This is a guy I want to hear about a sleeper going forward.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, he's definitely a guy that has to be on a radar, even if I don't love him as a prospect. Like, he will very likely get all the opportunity that, he can earn himself. So, and then lastly here to hit on very, very quickly, because I don't think we're going to see much of him in 2025, but the Giants trade back into the first round to number 25 overall and grab the quarterback, Jaxson Dart. Now he's going to be competing with Russell Wilson, with Jameis Winston. Probably not going to see the field for a while. Like, yeah, if the Giants have a terrible record by the end of the year, he'll probably get in. But I don't think for 2025, this pick really matters all that much for fantasy.
Yeah, this could be definitely Jalen Hurts part 2 every way you look at it. Like, they could bring him in late. They could do some packages for him. He could run. We could have Russell Wilson get disappoint once again, and Jameis Winston kind of just say, I'm the backup here. So I think you might see an open competition between Wilson and Dart. I think Winston just is going to be pretty much the veteran backup between whoever starts, right? And maybe they cut one of these guys, right? If Wilson or Winston don't work out, they can easily just do that, and if Dart impresses them. But I would say Dart is more of a guy that you look at as a dart throw, for 2026, then I think that's where his real value can be seen. I mean, he's a good runner. He's got big arm. He's got Malik Neighbors out there. So he's going to have a great receiver when he gets out and plays here. So this could be definitely Jalen Hurts part 2, where you see evolve into a fantasy asset in year 2, then absolutely take off, skyrocket to be an elite fantasy quarterback at some point in his career. This is how much talent Jaxson Dart has. Great fit for Brian Dable's system, mobile, strong arm, all the things you're looking for to stretch the field and also be very athletic and make some plays with his legs. So love the pick for the Giants. I don't think you're going to see it necessarily manifest unless he gets a chance later in the year, but I do like the pick. And again, this is why Shedeur Sanders didn't go. He's not a runner. He's not going to give you that dynamic ability to get out of the pocket. And if you're an improviser who doesn't run very well, that's not going to help you. And I think Jaxson Dart said, I've got a stronger arm, maybe. I can run better than Sanders. And that's why, again, this is what's happening in the NFL. You're going to copycat Hurts. You're not going to copycat Jared Goff in the pocket passers as much. So that's why I said we'll see what happens with Sanders, Saints, Steelers, whoever else might be taking him. But he's definitely off the board now for any fantasy consideration.
Yeah, he definitely is. That is it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We hope you enjoy the rest of the draft, and we will be back on Monday recapping all the other important picks for fantasy football that happened today and tomorrow. So enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Bye, y'all.